Veterans, we're under attack. Last week, 1,400 workers got fired illegally. 22 of them were my colleagues at Hines VA Hospital. Some of them didn't even get a real notice. All they got was this, an email with X's where the date should be and no name. That's how little they think of people and our veterans in this country and that serve our country.
Yeah, did y'all see the latest evidence of this MAGA party's blatant disregard for veterans? It's almost like Trump's empty denial of calling service members suckers and losers was an obvious lie.
It's huge. I just retired November 1st and was started at the VA on January 13th and then received my termination notice on February 13th. For me, moving to the VA was just a continuation of service to my country. It was the ability to continue to provide for my family, a wife and 2 daughters. And also, as a side note, I get to continue to serve with and for my brothers and sisters as veterans, providing for them. It was kind of a perfect thing until February 14th when I received my email and my world came crashing down. I'm the sole earner in the family. This has had a huge financial impact. I don't know, it's hard to market myself out there with my skill set. I found the perfect job and then that was taken away from me. It's huge financial stress right now.
We have to pay attention to the constant normalization of the way we do everything when a self-centered madman is in the White House, surrounded by a gang of billionaires whose sole purpose is to siphon as much money as possible from others. It's literally the only skill that they have. It supersedes what they call patriotism and satisfies them more than honoring these veterans' service.
We just learned that the chief of staff at the Department of the Veterans Affairs put out a memo yesterday outlining a VA-wide reduction in force in August to resize and tailor the workforce to the mission. But if we do the math, it could mean between 59,000 and 82,000 people would be let go. What would that mean for the department? You were inside it. You saw how it worked. Can it take a hit like that and do what veterans have come to expect it to do?
Yeah, I could really only speak for the short amount of time I was in my department at my facility. But I will say, I went in, we were short-staffed going in, and I knew that. We were struggling. I worked in the transportation department, getting vets from their homes to the VA for healthcare appointments, which is a huge part of it. They need the support in order to receive the benefits. I don't know if they were to cut more out of our department, we wouldn't be able to support transporting vets.
Imagine if that fired veteran answered Elon Musk's disrespectful email about detailing the things he does to keep his job. After hearing it, he apparently would have fired him anyway, which means he doesn't think the transport of disabled or immobile veterans to the VA for their healthcare appointments is something that American tax dollars should go to. That whatever money he's taking from this veteran's life is better off in his pocket, while making life much harder on the people that he used to help transport. Why is that something that we should celebrate?
My name is Louise. I'm from a small town in Pennsylvania called Tobyhanna. I'm sure many of you have children. I myself have 4 boys. They are 3, 12, 13, and 15. After I left the Navy, I struggled to find full-time work. I felt abandoned by my country, the one that I had worked so hard to serve. In the Navy, they don't teach you how to live life as a civilian. And I don't know how to keep me and my children afloat without these programs. During the difficult times that I have lived through, Medicaid, SNAP, and WIC were my lifelines. I needed these, and I still do. I don't understand why Republicans are trying to destroy these programs. These programs allow parents like me to take my kids to the doctor when they're sick and put food on my table. These same programs enable millions of veterans who don't qualify for services through the Veterans Administration to obtain medical care. My grocery bills keep going up. 2 years ago, when my infant son was born, a carton of eggs was $3. Now in my town, it's almost $8. If I lose SNAP, I won't be able to feed my family. If I lose Medicaid, my children won't be able to see a doctor when they're sick. Republicans want to take health care and food away from people like me, veterans and working parents, so they can give handouts to millionaires and billionaires. It's unacceptable that they'll let the people who serve this country suffer. Take it from me. Right now, it's not just us veterans, but all of us that suffer. Every day, veterans are suffering at the hands of the people that we fought to protect.
Every time a Republican official puts their mouth in front of a microphone, someone should ask them why these veterans don't deserve the support that they were promised. Why they think these veterans are pathological liars that learned nothing from their military training about dedication and perseverance. Because the excuses are that they're lazy, they're unqualified, and don't do anything in their jobs. Isn't that an indictment on our entire armed services? To claim our veterans are con artists that know nothing except how to game the system because they're too lazy. Republicans serve up slogans for the military while offering their purest form of disdain when it comes to supporting them.
Is the president starting to think about maybe some of those veterans who worked for the federal government and maybe what the administration can do to at least help salvage their lives?
Well, as you know, we care about veterans tremendously. I mean, that's something the president has always cared about. Anybody in blue, anybody that serves this country. But at the same time, we have taxpayer dollars. We have a fiscal responsibility to use taxpayer dollars to pay people that actually work. That doesn't mean that we forget our veterans by any means. We are going to care for them in the right way, but perhaps they're not fit to have a job at this moment or not willing to come to work.
As you know, we care about veterans tremendously. You know, that's something the president has always cared about. That doesn't mean we forget our veterans by any means. We're going to care for them in the right way. Those are all the slogans that Alina Habba, Trump's attorney, now turned counselor, sprinkled in her answer that was simply just a middle finger to veterans that she claims don't actually work and aren't fit to have a job. So when more end up homeless on the street and some self-medicating, people like her will call the cops on them. They will support her president's directives to clear out their unsightly encampments that his policies will help build.
First, let me thank Senator Blumenthal for this effort. It really matters. Even if it fails, it matters to our veterans to know that we tried, to know that we did not leave them out there at the mercy of Elon Musk and his little muskrats that have been running around through all of our government agencies, breaking agencies, violating court orders, prowling through your data, Americans, prowling through your data, and of course, firing veterans. No president has fired more veterans than Donald Trump just in his first few weeks in office. And what it is doing to the VA and to services for veterans is deeply wrong and deeply unfortunate.
No matter how many times this president arbitrarily announces things he's done like no one has ever seen before, I get the feeling that he won't include he and Musk's firing of veterans with absolutely no reasoning or concern about how many people it'll hurt.
There's a Rhode Islander who works for our Veterans Crisis Line. It's the hotline that veterans can call into when they're having an acute crisis of some kind, perhaps even feeling suicidal. This is not easy work. When that phone goes, you've got to be on and you've got to be expert. You've got to understand how to support the people who are calling in. You've got to understand how to get them to the services they need. It is a life and death matter. And this individual was fired and then rehired a few days later, or at least told they were reinstated just a few days later. But with all the scrambling going on at the VA has not reissued work credentials, and they still do not have a return to work date for the improper firing that never should have happened and then was rescinded, but now doesn't have a proper end to the termination. It is administrative malpractice, and it is stupid, and it is wrong.
Elon Musk's flippant answer is that he won't be perfect and that no one bats 1,000. And that's enough for supporters to go back to disregarding their fellow citizens in favor of these very stupid and unqualified ivory tower elitists. Their standard answer of blaming political opponents is all they got. And they just don't care that it doesn't make any sense.
We just got the jobs numbers out, Congressman. The ADP number is crossing right now. 77,000 private sector jobs were added to the economy last month. This is the lowest number of jobs added to the economy last month since July. This is the February ADP report. Now, obviously, this is not a result of President Trump's policies because this is a result of Joe Biden's economy that Trump inherited. But how worried should we be that you've got the Atlanta Federal Reserve now expecting a contraction in the first quarter?
It is clear that February job numbers, where this administration has bragged daily about firing as many employees as possible, which also affects non-government workers whose jobs depend on the existence of these necessary departments, it's clear that it's a direct result of the targeted mass destruction of our government. But all they've got is the slogans and blind loyalty to Trump that got us here, that most Americans will quickly refuse to pay any more attention to as conservative elitists repeatedly tell you that you deserve to suffer while they prosper.
Some very, very smart people are telling me that the jobs number that's coming out, the February jobs number that's coming out Friday, could be flat, even negative, Brookie. The GDP Now tracker from the Atlanta Fed is showing, I mean, for the first quarter, a -2.5% or -2.8%. And we've had lousy numbers on things like housing and business investment. My generic point here with respect to affordability and the economy is we're going to have to suffer through some bad news. This has nothing to do with Trump. Trump's program's not in yet. And I got people on the left who are blaming Trump. How can you blame Trump when he wasn't president, when these seeds were planted?
Well, you couldn't be more right about that because we've only been here 30 plus days. You can't turn an entire economy around in 30 days. You can't bring the cost of goods down in 30 days. And, you know, it isn't just that